the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast, where I will sit down and converse with the superstars, the overachievers, the masters of our craft. Each episode will be a deep dive into their personal philosophies, their habits, the tools they use, and the secrets to not only their success, but overcoming failure as well.
First, find somebody you can mimic, then find somebody you can stand, and then try to focus on one style until you master that style.
So if you say I can't do something, well, you're absolutely right. But if you say you're going to, you're absolutely right with that too.
People say that you shouldn't define yourself by your work. That is not true.
You know what Dave Farley does when he's, lucky enough to be at the World Equestrian Games? I'm watching other people work.
Yeah.
I don't think we do that enough.
This podcast is for all of you out there who share my passion for the job and the desire to always improve. These interviews will put you in touch with the inner workings of the role models we all want to emulate. So let's get to it.
There's only so many hours in a day, and it's a matter of what you do with them.
Welcome, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Roy Bloom. I'm very excited to bring you this interview today. It has been a long time in the works. After my interview with Dave Farley, I asked him if he could give me a list of people that I should interview for the podcast, and Roy was at the top of it. So this year at the summit in Cincinnati, both Dave Farley and I worked on Roy for about 3 days, convincing him that it would be a good idea to sit down and chat with me for the podcast. I'll read you Roy's bio as it is written on the AAPF's website. Roy Bloom started his journey in 1971 working for Rick Kreis. I hope the pronunciation of that is okay. Rick encouraged Roy to go to the North Texas Horseshoeing Institute. He did, and graduated in May of 1973. Roy found the AFA in 1984. He completed his basic certification in 1985 and Journeyman Certification in 1986. In 1989, Roy was an alternate on the American Farriers Team. In 1990, Roy had a position on the Gold Team and then the Silver Team in 2001. Earning a position on the team changed everything for Roy, and since then he has done clinics and classes in 40 states and 4 Canadian provinces. Roy was awarded the Outstanding Educator in 2001 by the AFA. Roy has both judged and presented for the AFA convention several times. Roy has judged competitions nationally and internationally, including the WCB Horseshoeing Classic, the Australian Nationals, and the World Championship Blacksmith Competition at the World's Fair in Calgary, Alberta. Roy was inducted into the Horseshoeing Hall of Fame in 2001. He served as the team coordinator from 2002 to 2009 for the AFA Farriers Team. His journey has produced a great many articles for numerous trade magazines, and along with Dave Farley, has produced a number of instructional videos. Through many years as a farrier, Roy has perfected his forging skills and is recognized throughout the industry for his blacksmithing, tool production, and great attention to detail. Roy is a founding member and served as the 2012 to 2018 treasurer for the American, Canadian, and International Associations of Professional Farriers. As you will hear, Roy is full of great stories. I'm sure all of you have seen that video, Cow Pies and Clips, that's on YouTube somewhere. I asked Roy about that video, and he told me the whole backstory, which is quite entertaining. I'm very glad I asked him about it. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the interview as much as I did. So I'm sitting here today with Roy Bloom, and he was gracious enough to sit down for a little while with me here. It took me all week at the Cincinnati Summit to track him down. I had some help with Dave Farley. He is an elusive fella. Here we are sitting together, and we'll have a quick chat. So thanks very much for doing this, Roy.
No problem.
So we were talking how when you first started, you're in Wisconsin now, but you started out
In Indiana.
in Indiana. And back then, there wasn't much sharing going on.
None. Zero. Nobody talked to anybody or each other. It was you were on your own.
Yeah.
So if you go off to shoeing school and you come back, you've been at shoeing school for 12 weeks, you think you know every bloody thing there is to know about it.
Yep.
And actually you haven't even scratched the surface, right?
Yep.
So now it's just all the good horses are taken already. You're the new kid on the block.
Yep.
Yeah. So you just got to work your way up from the bottom.
And so that's basically what you did?
Yeah.
You were there for how long?
20 years.
Wow.
In Indiana.
Okay.
Over the course of 20 years, of course, you build up clientele and people stick with you. And one thing that was pretty easy was that you study or you listen to everybody and what their complaints are about the other horseshoers. Mm-hmm. And then you don't do that.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yep.
So all I had to do really was to just show up on time.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing. Everybody else would say, I'll be there Tuesday. But they didn't tell you which Tuesday, right?
A Tuesday.
Yeah, a Tuesday. It'll be a Tuesday, but we don't know.
Yep.
Well, I even went to the point of, I tell you I was going to be there at 10:30 on Tuesday, and I made a point of
Lo and behold, you were there.
being there at 10:30. Just honor a commitment, right? I
Yep.
mean, it's just simple stuff. And before I left, when we were filling out the bill and whatnot, I would take a business card and we would look through the calendar and make an appointment for 6 or 8 weeks out, write the time down, day, hand them the card. They could hang it, tack it on the wall in the barn or in the house or whatever. And you showed up 6 weeks later at the time you said.
That time.
And that's all I had to do.
Yep.
It wasn't whether I could shoe a horse or not. Didn't mean because I couldn't. I mean, I'm trying. But,
Yeah.
But you're new. You're slow as molasses.
Yep.
Your poor horses are standing out in the cross ties for a couple of 3 hours.
Yep.
And everything we did was cold.
Really?
No hot shoeing at all. In fact, I don't know what year it was that the first propane forge actually came out. If you wanted fire, before that you had to have coal in the truck.
Right.
Now that was tricky. And there was a lot of guys that had it. Built-in coal forges in their truck.
And would they just keep it lit all day or light it at each place?
You ended up having to put it out or try to get most of it out. Because if you went to the next stop and you took off, the wind draft inside would rekindle.
Right, yeah.
And pretty soon you'd have flames shooting out the top of your topper. And
Yep.
then you got people honking at you like, hey, your truck's on fire. No, that wasn't too good. So a couple of older fellas in the area actually carried small riveters forges. It's a round forge with a hand crank.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It was used in riveting structural steel,
okay.
right? So, but it was kind of handy and portable, and
Right.
so they would just have that in their truck, and then they just set it up outside and with their anvil and get a fire going, and because they needed something, a clip or something like that.
Right.
Rarely did I ever see anybody ever hot fit.
Okay.
They draw clips, but they really never fit the clips either. I mean, they never really burned them all that way. They just drew one, and then just nailed it on and beat it in with a hammer or something.
Right.
Which wasn't it either. But anyway, so everything you did was cold. So anyway, it went through from 73, coming out of shoeing school, to 84, when we heard about this AFA thing, and they were going to have a convention in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Okay.
So at the time, I actually had an apprentice. It was a young fellow. I had shod his horses and his family's horses for a number of years, and he decided to go off to shoeing school. And when he came back, he asked if he could work with me. And at first I told him no. I don't want anybody hanging around and doing all this stuff. And he said, well, you don't have to pay me anything, or I just want to hang around. Well, it got to the point where you're like, all right, if you're going to be doing this stuff, I'm going to pay you.
Okay.
You know, we're going to do this right then.
Yeah.
So I think he's the one that heard about it first, and he tells me about it. And so we've planned it and did the whole bit, and we even went to the point of buying video cameras. In '84, a video camera was about the size of your truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
It actually sat on your shoulder. I mean, these things were huge.
Yep.
And it took a VHS tape on the side of them. So we actually bought 2 of them, and we filmed that entire convention.
Wow.
And all those tapes are, the Journal has them all. They were going to try to convert them over to CDs,
Okay.
but I don't think they've done anything with them. That's a good point.
Gonna have to talk to Jeremy about that.
They're here right now, aren't they? We'll go corner a couple of. Hey, what the hell did you do with my tapes? Nah. But I mean, that would be kind of interesting. See the
No kidding.
the '84 convention
The first time you'd been there.
all
Yeah.
filmed out, and
Yeah.
oh well. Anyway, so but when we got there, now we've never been to anything. There was no such thing as a chapter. Like the Illinois Farriers or the Indiana Farriers, nope, they didn't exist. That didn't exist. There was no clinics. None of this stuff ever happened. So when you got there, then there's a couple of hundred guys there, and then you're seeing all this stuff going on. Guys making shoes and demonstrating this, and then the marketplace, and it wasn't very big, but you walked in there and like. Oh, there's more than 2 different kinds of shoes.
Really?
Like, I'll be dipped. You got to be kidding me. And what's this mustard nail thing? Yeah, like, what in the world? I would imagine it's exactly the same.
Yeah.
When you come to this summit right now, the first time, and you've never walked into that marketplace ever, and you walk into that booger and know that this is going to take all 3 days to see all this.
Yep.
Right.
And that was exactly my experience this year.
Oh, this is going to take a while.
Yeah.
Right?
And a lot of money, I think. This is going to cost me.
Yeah. Oh. The trip just got expensive.
Yep.
No, yeah.
There goes that budget.
All of a sudden, you're just a kid in a candy store thing, right? Oh, my God. Look at all this stuff. Yeah, that's what we were. Well, then, and we're wandering around in there, like we were talking earlier. When I started, in order to find shoes, find nails, find rasps, find tools, all that stuff, I had to drive 6 hours to a tack store down in southern Illinois. It was the only one that anybody knew actually stocked this stuff. So you do that thing where early spring, before it got kicked in April sometime, you'd make the drive. Then you'd go down there and dump $1,000. Right?
Just try to anticipate what you were going to be.
Yeah, buy boxes and cases of nails and 50-pound boxes of shoes. And you just buy everything you thought you were going to need all summer.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to drive all the way back down there again.
Right.
We always ended up having to. Mm-hmm. So then we finally talked the local tack shop right there. We talked him into stocking all the stuff. And we said, well, you got all the horseshoers around the area. They'll come buy that stuff. So he did. And well, then we didn't have to drive so far, and then you didn't have to stock so much stuff. Mm-hmm. That was pretty handy.
No kidding.
So when we went to the convention then, we go into that marketplace, and here's a booth set up from a store just into Wisconsin, all right? So which it was, I don't know, maybe an hour's drive up there to get to. And it's called Centaur Forge.
Okay.
Bloody huge.
Familiar name.
And it had been there forever. And we didn't even know it existed there in Indiana. But then you walk in the marketplace and, well, what the? Son of a bucket. So stuff that we couldn't get at the tack store, I mean, was all sitting there
An hour away.
in Burlington, Wisconsin, Holy moly. So that became a couple times over the course of the year, the big trip. Mm-hmm. Go up and hand them all your money.
And hope you made more off of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So strange stuff. When I started shoeing, it was $16 to nail 4 shoes on, $14 for a reset, and $4 for a trim.
Holy jeez.
Okay, so, but with that $16 you got for shoeing a horse, you could buy 50 pounds of Nordic or diamond shoes. A 50-pound box of whatever size.
Okay.
For $16.
Okay.
And it's a 50-pound box of double aughts, a 50-pound box of aughts or whatever.
Yeah.
But one horse would buy 50 pounds of shoes.
That's not a bad deal.
Oh, you're making money.
Yeah.
So over the years, you watched it happen where the shoe manufacturers raised their prices. We followed it. Mm-hmm. It went up to 24, and then it went up to 36, and we kept kind of bumping and bumping. Then it reached 45, and we thought we're in tall cotton here, boys. Mm-hmm. $45 to shoe a horse, and we could go buy a box of shoes. Same thing, we're making money. And then they went to 96 or something silly.
Like a big jump.
Yeah, boom, like double the price. And we didn't. And right then, we quit making money.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Just right now, boom. Oh, these people will not put up with $96 to shoe a horse.
Right.
But that's pretty cool anyway. But then through that AFA thing, so you get the taste of one convention. Well, now you're hooked. Mm-hmm. You're done. We joined. Boom, we're in. And the following year, and I don't remember where that convention was. But anyway, now you're getting the magazine. Now you're starting to keep up on events that are coming. And then you find out that there's an active group over in Ohio. Well, that's not that far from us in Indiana. Mm-hmm. So we joined that. Because there was no Indiana or Illinois deal, we went and joined the Ohio Farriers group. And they were very progressive guys. I mean, most of them were toe weight guys.
Okay.
They're shoeing Morgans or Arab Park and that type of stuff, and saddlebreds and whatnot. So they're all into forging toe weights.
Right, because they had to make them themselves, right?
Yeah, you couldn't buy that.
Right.
You couldn't buy a toe weight. That hadn't come around yet. So, I mean, it's forging. And then when you went to that convention, there was a little contest. And they're forging. And you're thinking, oh, this is the coolest stuff. I haven't done this for 10 years since I left school. I'm going to get back into this stuff. Well, then it got stupid. Because now you just get ate up with it.
Yep. All consuming.
I even restructured my business to the point that I made sure that I was done no later than 4 o'clock. I was home, and I was in the shop building shoes, just practicing.
And that's how you structured your day?
Yeah. I'd shoeing from whatever, 8 to 4. Because before that, it didn't matter what time it was. I wasn't married. It didn't matter if I was out till 10:30, 11 o'clock shoeing. It didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'd just keep going and shoe all weekend. Days didn't mean anything.
Yeah.
I'm shoeing. But then once that bloody contesting got in, oh, goodness gracious. So, but it forced you to learn something, right? The Ohio boys would have a little contest in the fall, so you'd go to that. And, of course, you start out in the novice, and then you get pretty good at the novice stuff, and then they move you to the intermediate thing, and then you get pretty good at that, and then you're in the open. Now you're up against the big guys, and it's just better. It's better and better and better and better. And you just keep pushing yourself and pushing yourself. Then you think, I think I could compete at the convention, So the first time you go do that, you go, oh, you don't belong here, boy. You're not ready.
Imposter syndrome.
You're not ready.
Yep.
Right. But also through the course of this, the number of different forging tools that you could buy, even at Centaur or at the convention or anything, it was so limited that nobody was making any of that stuff.
Right. They would make it themselves, I'm assuming?
Absolutely. That's the only way or if there was some handy guy that made his own stuff, and maybe you could buy one from him, or he put one in an auction or something.
Okay.
And you think, oh, I'm going to bid on that.
Yeah.
That Fuller right there. I need that really bad. Otherwise, you say, I'll start making my own stuff. So just so happened that we bumped into a blacksmith right there in northwest Indiana. He'd been a industrial blacksmith in steel mills all his life.
Okay.
He was not a horseshoer. Everything was just utilitarian blacksmithing. Anything that the steel mill required was forged in the blacksmith shop. Then it went to the machine shop. So they'd forge to a specific number, size, enough that the machine shop could turn or machine the piece to
Okay.
exact.
Yep.
right? So the forgings were exact. You know, you didn't hand them a bunch of junk, right? So learning from him how stuff moves, how this stuff moves, and what's necessary to create this or that, or why is it cracking? Why did it screw up? How to punch a bloody hole in a tool kind of thing for a handle, and do it correctly, you know? So hanging out at his shop, and I would ask him questions and whatnot, and he'd show me a little something here, a little something there, and I'd go home and bang out a fuller or bang out a four puncher or something, whatever. Punch a hole, do this, build punches to punch the hole.
You're right. Yeah, you got to start with one to make the next.
Yeah, and then you got to build a tong to hold the tool while you're punching it. Yeah, next thing you know is like, again, we're out of control again. So, but then you start getting fairly handy at that and producing your stuff. So then you show up at a contest and you got your table full of your tools, and guys are going, "Where'd you get this? Where'd you get that?" And you go, "Well, I made it." "Could you make me one? You know, how can I buy one from you or something?" I don't have any. Well, maybe I better start making a few extras.
Yeah.
You know, or you shine up a fuller and put it in an auction or something, you know. And this blacksmith guy, he would come to my shop every once in a while. I'd stop in or whatever, and he'd see that I had polished a tool. I mean, just the thing was buffed, you know. And he'd go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "The only thing that does any work is where you hit it or where it's cutting into bottom." And he says, "That's the only two places you polish anything. The inside, that means absolutely nothing. You're wasting your time."
Well, you don't know marketing.
Yeah.
You don't know farriers.
Yeah. I mean,
We like shiny stuff.
that's right. We're all magpies,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
They collect this stuff. And if you put it in this marketplace and it's black or something, you know.
Oh, you'll walk right past
Yeah.
it. Yep.
No, that one ain't no good.
But that table full of shiny things, it took a lot of my money each time I walked past one.
I am all over that. Yeah. So one thing leads to another, you know. I mean, so now all of a sudden you go to one of these contests and you're selling some tools to guys, and then there'll be a store there, like Centaur or something like that, and they'll go, "Can I order to put in the store?" And you're like, "Oh, what in the world happened there?" You know, kind of thing. So next thing you know, you're in the tool business.
Yeah.
You're making tools. Now you got a problem, because now you're trying to shoe horses, practice, and make tools too. Oh, good Lord. It kept building. It just kept building and building and building and building. And pretty soon you got to make a decision. Are you going to shoe horses or are you going to make tools?
Right.
Right? So when I started telling some of my shoeing clients, now I've been shoeing some of these clients for 15, 18 years, right? I've shod and watched their kids grow up.
Right.
And then their kids have gotten married. And I'm now shoeing for the kids' kids.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's over an 18-year period. Yeah. You're not client relationship anymore.
It's deeper.
Now you're friends.
Yeah.
You've been friends.
Yeah.
So when I'd say that I was going to quit and I was going to shoe horses, well, then I couldn't go anywhere. I mean, you couldn't go to the county fair, or you couldn't go downtown even to have breakfast, because you'd bump into a client you told you can't do anymore.
Yeah.
And then they're begging you.
Right.
You know, they didn't like the guy that you recommended.
Oh, no.
You know, so they're not going to let you quit. No, you're stuck with this. And I thought, well, apparently I've got to get out of here. I got to leave. So family had always vacationed up in northern Wisconsin. That was where we vacationed. So I thought, well, what if I move up there?
Right.
You know, it doesn't matter. As long as I can ship out of the place, it doesn't matter where I'm at.
Yeah, you're not worried about a base of clientele.
Yeah.
That makes it a little easier.
Yeah. So started looking for something up in Wisconsin, found a little place that we liked, and made sure that I could operate my blacksmith shop on that piece of property and all that sort of thing. Got all that squared away, and by this time I was married.
Okay. How did you find time to have a relationship amongst all of that?
Yeah. Right. Oh, I guess you have to make time.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we moved. We took off. We got out of there. And then I quit everything. I had an apprentice that turned partner sort of thing, and I gave him the entire business.
Okay.
I gave it to him. You do what you want with it. You can pick and choose and whatever. And I went to Wisconsin. All I've been doing ever since was building tools
Okay.
in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Well, I got up there and found out that you're in the heart of the North Woods, and it's everybody's vacation place, right? But people come in there and they buy property on a lake, and then they build a big, fancy summer home, and well, all of a sudden there was a demand for ornamental ironwork.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? Railings and gates and fireplace stuff and all that kind of thing. And oh, here we go. You know, that's a little add-on to the deal. And but that also meant I'm going to need help. So now all of a sudden I'm looking for employees, and this thing is getting out of hand.
It's growing.
Yeah, it's getting big. At the peak, I had 3 guys working.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of it ended up being almost 50-50 ornamental
Okay.
tools. And somewhere in that whole mess, right after I moved up there, I came in contact with Dan Burke and Linda Hill, who had just started Farrier product distribution.
Okay.
All right. And I bumped into them, and Dan and I hit it off right away. And I think I probably met him through Dave Farley.
Okay.
Dave knew him. I didn't.
And that is how Dave Farley works.
Yeah.
It just connects everybody.
That's exactly right. That's how you and I are sitting there on
That's
this
right.
couch.
Yep. He is the glue that holds everything together.
Yeah, my agent.
Yeah. Yep.
No, anyway, so the concept of FPD was we don't retail. We don't sell directly to the farrier. If we're going to distribute to a retailer, to a store, we're not going to be in competition with that store.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Which is not the way it's done. That's not the way it was done in the horseshoeing industry.
Oh, okay.
No, a manufacturer of tools sold directly all the time, and he competed right with the people he was wholesaling to.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes right on the same premises.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
well,
at
I
the
mean-
convention or whatever,
Yeah.
you'd be there beside.
He'll have a booth set up there, and he's selling right straight off there, and the guy right next to him is the guy that buys it from. You're like, what the? Anyway, so Dan's concept was that we will not do that. We'll support the stores. We'll give them as much help in advertising and just promotion, publication, marketing, all this stuff. So Dan's very, very good at this stuff, this marketing thing. Mm-hmm. So we talked and we talked and we talked, and he's trying to feel me out as to, are you willing to do this? You know, that everything you make goes exclusively to FPD and it's distributed from there.
Right.
So we started that relationship on a handshake, and we've been together since.
Wow. How long ago was that?
Well, it had been right there right after I moved. I moved up to Wisconsin in 92. So, yeah, shortly after that, 93, 94.
Wow.
So we've been, I don't know what you want to call it, partners in this relationship for that long. Mm-hmm. You know? And so now we do things back and forth all the time. Started doing some videos.
Yes.
Yeah, with Dave. But Dan was the camera guy.
Oh, okay.
Right? So all those videos we did and everything you see on YouTube today, that's Dan on the camera.
Okay.
Right? So there's a relationship still right there with all that stuff too. Well, then Dan thought it's one thing to purchase advertising in a magazine. Okay, so you buy an ad and you put your ad in there for 1 month, and it costs you X amount of dollars. And you hope that when a farrier's reading the magazine that he actually stops and looks at your ad.
Right.
That'd be really nice if you did that. But a lot of times they don't. But anyway, what's the percentages? But if we were to take and sponsor, if FPD would sponsor a clinic at one of our stores, say they have a spring open house, and then FPD would bring in clinicians and all the equipment, and all the store had to do was like feed everybody. Just you put the food bag on, but we'll give an all-day free clinic to whatever. And then now we're promoting the store, but also we're one-on-one with the farrier.
Yeah.
The whole group of them.
Yep.
Right? They can come up and they can talk directly to you if they have a question or whatever. So we started that stuff. I have no idea how many clinics Dave Farley and I have done. I don't know the number.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while there, I was gone at least once a month, sometimes more. I mean, we were on the road.
Touring.
Yeah. Well, then that thing just kept growing and growing. Or you've been to clinics, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
Say the clinician's there and he's working on the horse, and everybody crowds in tight. But the only guys that ever get to see anything are the guys right in front.
Yep.
Right? Everybody else is like, hey, what'd he do?
Yeah.
Well, Dan was like obsessed with that. Cannot happen. I can't do that. Then the camera thing started coming in, and big screen. First we started out with just big televisions. Well, then all of a sudden, flat screens. We had big flat screens. Then we went to the projector.
Okay.
And then up on the big screen, and bleachers.
Right.
So it was Dan going in underneath that horse with that camera, filming Dave or me. I mean, right in there. And all you had to do is look at the screen. It was nothing but the horse's foot.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, this is the coolest thing since. This is great, right? And I see it all the time still. They'll go to a clinic and nobody has no camera, no nothing.
Yeah.
And here we go.
It's true.
Back to the Stone Age with this clinic, right?
Yep. We're all going to crowd in and spook the horse. And,
Nobody's going to see stuff. There'll be 6 guys walk away with this going, that was a pretty good clinic.
Yeah. Taking something from it. Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So, anyway. So, somewhere in this whole mess. Oh, in 90, well, going back to that, I'm practicing for that convention and contests and all this stuff, and I'm still doing that. Before I left to go to Wisconsin, I'm beating on it. And in 90, I went to the convention and actually placed second in 2 classes. Now, that's a pretty good thing. I'm a tickled guy, right? But it put me as the first alternate to the American Farriers Team.
Okay.
At that time, there was no check the box thing. It was just the top 5 at the convention became the team.
Oh, okay.
All right. So I'm in the 5th spot. 3 of the guys above me, or that are 1, 2, and 3, decide that they don't want to go. So
you're it.
Bob Parks and myself got moved up to 1 and 2, and now Danny Ward was the manager, and so now Danny's scrambling to find 6, 7, 8, 9 to see who's going to finally put together a team. It was me, Bob Parks, Rod Harney, and Jim Poor.
Okay.
Yeah. So all of a sudden now you're on the American Farriers Team. You made it.
Yeah.
That was your goal. Now you made it.
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden everybody knows your name. Before that they didn't give nobody knew who you were. They didn't care. And everybody thinks you know everything there is to know. And again, you're right back where you started in the beginning. Coming out of horseshoeing school, you don't know shit.
Yeah.
But they want you to do a clinic. Now you're petrified. I got to get up in front of all these guys and tell them what I know, and I don't know that much. This is going to be a short clinic. Here we go. Right? You know what they say. I mean, like teaching teaches you more than...
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, I'm learning that now.
So when you have to stop and explain what you're doing, why you did that, all that, and you have to pick yourself apart, now you start learning.
Mm-hmm. You start to question stuff you never even thought of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, whoo. So then you get involved with Dan Burke a few years after that, and then there's more clinics, and then and every time you go, you're learning something else. You're learning something else. You're learning something else. And I learned that we probably shouldn't put that on here, but I can talk for 45 minutes and tell you every detail I can possibly pick out a turn in this branch or something, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of 4 or 5 minutes, and I said, we're going to take a break, and I'll tell you a joke, right? And The only thing you'll remember is the joke. So I could do this clinic over and over and over and over and then tell you a joke. And you can go to 6 or 7 of my clinics. It's all the same. I'm going to tell you exactly the same thing I told you at the first clinic, but you can't remember it because I told you, but you know all my jokes now.
Yeah.
No.
I think Cody touched on this when I spoke to him. You can see the same thing over and over again, but until you go home, try it.
Absolutely.
And then come back, I'll see your clinic again and get something completely different out of it because now I know what to look for or now I know what question to ask. I wasn't ready for it.
That's exactly
in
right.
the beginning.
Exactly right. I mean, you could just do it over and over. I'm telling you the same stuff, but you're right. And I've had guys come up and go after a clinic. This is the 5th clinic of yours I've been to. Mm-hmm. You know, did you learn anything? Oh yeah, I'm good. Well, good. That's the idea of this.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's good that you keep showing up because some of those lessons, like we only retain so much, especially like we're trying to pack everything into one day. Well, how do you pack all of your wisdom into a few 45-minute sessions, right?
Oh, exactly.
And so you're pushing in a whole bunch of information and only some of it's going to stay inside. The rest goes out the other ear. But you keep showing up and that repetition, that
Exactly
helps.
right. That's exactly it. And you're right. You have to go home and apply it.
Yes.
If you don't, it's gone. You lost it. You're sitting at home trying to think, all right, what did Roy say about that? I can't remember. Damn. Well, you get caught up in that too then, don't you?
Yeah.
The teaching aspect of all this, or just...
That gets out of hand too.
Yeah, it does. it does. I mean, so you're still going, I don't know, 6-8 times a year. I'm out doing a clinic someplace somewhere, right? Maybe it's cut down a little bit and whatnot. You're starting to see a lot of fellas that are going through the same thing I did over the course of that time, where they get on the team, you know, and then they're the ones. Well, they know everything, you know.
Yep.
So now that you get them doing the clinic, and them doing the clinic and stuff, and so maybe Roy doesn't have to do so many or whatever, but you're still out and about. And then you have I have a couple of young fellows with me here that have been coming to the shop for a couple of years now.
Yep.
And started from nothing and worked our way up. This fall, they both passed their certified farrier.
Cool.
You know, so I mean, you set goals and the boys are applying themselves and you're practicing and it never stops. It can't stop.
No.
It can't.
No.
That's
the thing that stops this job from being so difficult, like because you can get into a rut for sure.
Yeah.
Is just that setting a next goal.
Yeah.
And there is always another one to set here.
Yeah, and bringing in an apprentice or whatever you want to call them,
Yep.
it just stimulates you again.
Yeah.
Because now you have to stop and go back and start over and think about shit that you forgot about already. But
Yep.
now you got to, I have to explain that. Also, the AAPF
Yep.
has a Roy Bloom Scholarship Fund.
Right.
Yeah, right. Here we go. But anyway, one of those kids that gets chosen, you choose one who has 5 years or less experience and one that has more than 5 years experience, right? So out of the two, the committee decides who is the grand prize winner. That person gets 3 days with the mentor of their choice, you know. Well, I've done 2 now, you know, where the people that have won have decided they wanted to
Come hang out with you.
yeah,
of
for
course.
3 days.
Yeah.
Right. So there's another teaching thing and start over, and it's all perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but when we found the AFA in 84, in 85, I was on a committee.
Yeah.
You know, I joined and I became active.
And wanted to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I ended up on the rules committee. You know, I spoke with Myron McLean, and he said, "Yep, okay." And ever since then, I did something.
Yeah.
always doing something, holding something. So then again, in 2001, so I was on the team in 90, and then in 2001, a friend of mine from Minnesota, Terry Holst, and myself got into the draft class and thought the draft class is that can only be one team member and then a non-team member.
Okay.
Right, so Terry wasn't on the team or hadn't been. So we should be able to do this for years. Just because it's the only class we entered.
Okay.
was the draft class. We just going in and have some fun, right?
Yeah.
So sure enough, in 2001, Bruce Daniels was the manager, and he had a gold team and a silver team. So he was taking 8 guys instead of just the 4.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right? So the contest goes down. The top 4 guys dominated everything and took all the points. So when he went to pick out the silver team, he's going down the list, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, Terry and I happened to place second in the draft thing.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, Bruce comes over and he goes, "You boys are on the silver team." And you're like, "Oh, no, wait a minute. We were thinking we were going to be able to do this for years." And no, but it's a good thing because then all of a sudden, Terry's on the team too, right?
Yeah.
All right. You're going, so
Epitome of bittersweet.
yeah, exactly. So there we are. Oh, now we're both on the team again. Son of a bucket. And we're going to Calgary. Yeah, the silver team went to Calgary, and which was all fun anyway. But during the course of that 2001 year, Bruce stepped down from being the manager, and then they asked me if I would take over the team manager. So, okay, all right. And I had some ideas. So for the next 7 years, I managed the American Farriers Team.
Incredible.
So all the now I'm on the road even more. Everything that the team went to, every practice,
be there.
clinic that we did for associations, and 7 times going over to England to be in Stoneleigh then. I'm on the road again. Besides clinics that I was doing anyway.
Yeah.
Like, holy buckets, man. This is getting out of hand.
Well, you know how you had said that, 45 minutes, how are we going to fill that? I think we're already there.
Are we really?
Yeah, it's 10:37 already.
Well, there you go. See?
Yeah. I really feel like we need to have like another 45-minute session at some point. I don't know if I can snag you this afternoon or if we do it another time, but...
We might be able to do that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay. Yeah, now it's not so daunting.
Yeah, right. No, it's all good
It's
now.
pretty easy, isn't it?
Yeah, we're not too scared of this microphone.
Well, thank you very much for sitting with me to do this for now. So for the listeners, the acoustics might all of a sudden sound a little bit different, a little bit echoier, but we've changed location so that we could finish our chat from this morning, and I really appreciate that you've done this.
Is that a word?
Roy.
Echo.
I'm not sure.
Echoier.
I'm going to try and get it put in the Scrabble dictionary. More echoey? I don't know.
Yeah, echoier. I like that better.
It sounds kind of Canadian, doesn't it?
Yeah, could be.
So we had to pause, and I had another interview lined up. So then we met back at the convention hall, and now we're in this bigger room. And we were trying to figure out where to go from where our conversation was. And we were just talking about clientele. I had asked Roy if he'd ever experienced burnout, and your answer was no. That period of time when you were making tools, practicing to compete, running a business, why do you think you didn't burn out?
Really, I don't know. I don't know, but there's always been thousands of ideas running through your head. Not so much in making shoes, even though there are so many different shoes. The few that we're touching on that we use in everyday practice or whatever, or you see where someone's transferred them to a factory-made modification type thing, we're not even close. I mean, there could be, 1,200, 1,500 different variations and whatnot.
Yeah.
If you've ever had the opportunity to go to Lee Lyle's Horseshoeing Museum, Lee has some of the original shoe boards from late 1800s.
Oh, cool.
And a lot of them. In fact, he has like 7 of the original William Russell shoe boards in there. But the shoes in these cases are just way beyond anything we're making today. We're not even close. You could continue doing that, making shoes. But then if you get off into the blacksmithing side of everything, now there's no end to it. Now there's absolutely, it's infinite. You know? So just for instance, look what Forged in Fire on television has done for the blacksmithing industry.
No kidding.
I mean, unbelievable, huh? Mm-hmm. I mean, they have put it on the map.
Yeah.
Everybody's interested in making knives, you know. Well, there. Now, that's only one aspect, knife making. But look how much is involved in just that show. All of the tests that they keep dreaming up to make those poor boogers do that, right? Incredible. And that's just knife making. I mean, how much more stuff is there? Well, there's no end. I mean, what if you're building gates? What if you're building railing? Railing all by itself. How many different designs do you think you could dream up for the inside of a railing, right?
It's endless.
That flow of ideas and it's constant. To this day, it doesn't go away. I still have ideas. Oh, what if? Oh, I could do that. Oh. Yeah. So, all right, so I'll tell you a story. The young man that I gave them business to in Indiana was Tom Willoughby.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, I'm making connections here.
Right. So Tom and I worked together for a number of years in Indiana. And now you take that brain.
Yeah.
I come at things completely different than Tom. I'm into some kind of like detail thing, and Tom isn't. Tom's just into a concept and a story.
Right.
You know, but the two of them together just blew out of proportion, right? Between the two of us, it was a constant thing of new ideas. So one morning, he calls me on the phone and he says, I woke up with this idea on how we can make a hummingbird out of one piece of steel. I said, well, get over here. So he comes over to the shop, and sure enough, he figured it out. We worked out we made a couple tools, make it a little easier. Finally, boom, there's a hummingbird. So, wow, that's so cool, right? Well, now we need a flower, then we need some leaves and stuff like that. So we took some pipe and we made a flower, and then we stuck it all in a block of junk, right? And we took it to the AFA convention. We put it in the auction. Had no idea who bought it. Don't know where it went. It just disappeared, right? So then, a couple months, 2-3 months later, I get the anvil's ring from Urbana, the Blacksmith Association magazine. Mm-hmm. And in the pictures on the magazine, the showcase was a hummingbird with a flower that I swear looked identical to what we did. Mm-hmm. But then when you looked at it a little closer, no, it wasn't ours. But this gentleman who made it was in Syracuse, New York. So then Tom, in his Tom's wisdom, says, that proves it. That's it, man, right there. What do you mean, that's it right there? And he goes, that whole theory about the Indians use it, the Japanese use it, but everything is based on the rising sun, and that the man of the house always wakes up facing the rising sun. So always to the east. Your bed always faces to the east. So that, he says, and then your forehead is an idea receptor. He says, and these ideas are spinning right about that level around the earth. There's ideas everywhere. He says, and sometimes they bounce off you, sometimes they don't, sometimes they hit you on an angle, but for the most part, he says, so look on the map. He says, so that guy's in Syracuse, we draw a line due west, boom, Sauk Village, Illinois. That's where I live. He says, so that guy woke up, whap, got hit by this idea, hummingbird, one piece of steel. He says, it bounced off of him, then it hit the idea sphere, and then came down and smacked me. He says, so there you go. And he says, it proves it. I'll guarantee you right now, both Tom and I, our beds face to the east right now.
Yeah.
Right, so a few years later, we're down in Kansas City at the convention. And I'm sitting in the lobby of the hotel with Eddie Watson from Virginia. And Eddie says, how is it that I go out to the shop and I build a Fuller? And then when I come to the convention, Roy Bloom's got it on the market. And I said, which way's your bed face? And he goes, what? What are you talking about? I said, which way's your bed face? I said, let me think, Eddie. So in order to get a deflection to go from Virginia to Wisconsin, they're going to have to turn, your bed faces a little north of east. So it hits you and deflects and heads for me in Wisconsin. So Eddie sat there for the longest time and finally looked at me and said, I believe it does. I said, well, there you go. Yeah, that's the whole story right there. I said, it bounced off of you and then came up, whap, and I took it. Yep. I'll go, Fuller. Oh, I'll go make one.
Well, I'm going to have to figure out where exactly your pin is on the Google map and then figure out which way my bed needs to face.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. But that was the kind of stuff we were thinking about all the time.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, it's but it maybe that's not it, but I mean, there's a constant barrage of ideas all the time.
And that just keeps you motivated and...
Yeah, because it's never ending.
Yeah.
And when you get into a project, I don't care what it is, there will be other projects come off of that project because that's not what's what's expected in this project. But by God, it could be. I'm going to build one of them anyway because So in the course of going up to Wisconsin, then I leave there. Now I knew full well when I went up there that there were not enough horses in all of northern Wisconsin to match what I was doing in Indiana. Mm-hmm. I probably had 350 horses on the books, just my side. Tom had another 300, So there were days when him and I were working together in the bigger barns, and then days when we went off on our own.
Okay. Yeah.
And we hired 2 young 4-H kids that were clients' kids to be helpers all summer. So we taught them how to pull shoes, how to clinch. They would tag along with both of us. So all 4 of us would be in the barn when we were together, and then Tom and I would split and go do backyard stuff, right?
Right.
All right, so when I went up to Wisconsin, I had been going up there enough on vacation and whatnot that I knew in traveling around up there, driving around, that there's no horses here. So in order for me to replace the number of horses that I had in Indiana, I was going to have to hit northern Minnesota, the UP of Michigan, and Wisconsin. So I was going to have to travel. So I thought, good, I'm not doing it. I'm just breaking away. Well, that doesn't happen. There were some folks in town that had some horses, and next thing you know, you're trimming a couple for this lady and a couple for that lady. But it was just little side stuff, right? No big deal. Then a lady up north of me in Lake Superior is a set of islands, the Apostles.
Okay,
it's just north of Ashland, Wisconsin, and they're right on that southern side of Lake Superior. But one of those islands is habitable. The rest are under National Lakeshore. And there's one lady on that island with horses, right? And she had a boarder in there. Well, the boarder this one young fella up there went in there and just trimmed the bloody hell out of this guy, and he couldn't walk, and he was down. She somehow managed, she hauled him all the way to the University of Minnesota, down into Minneapolis. And all they did was tape some styrofoam underneath his feet and let him grow back, right? Mm-hmm. But he sat at the university all that time. That had to be expensive.
No
vet bill, don't you think?
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's down at the university, and she says, I can't have that farrier come back. So she asked the farrier at the university, do you know of anybody in northern Wisconsin? Well, I didn't know the guy. I know who that is down there. But he says, there's a guy in Drummond. I don't know if you can get him or not. You'll have to talk really nice or something. But that'd probably be your best bet. So sure enough, I get a phone call. And I thought, well, oh no. All the way up on the island and everything. And what the hell? I said, all right, I'll come up and look at them. So we made an appointment, and I had to get up there. You have to drive up to Bayfield, and then you have to get on the ferry. You have to take the ferry across. And of course, then you have to be working with the ferry schedule.
Right.
So then you have to drive up the island, and there you are. But so when you're going home, you're looking at the clock, coordinating as to whether I'm going to miss the ferry or I'm going to have to wait an extra hour. Or,
Right, yeah.
Well, anyway, so we went up there. I looked at them. Said, there's nothing wrong now. I mean, they grew foot back, and she says, well, I really want shoes on. And I said, yeah, okay, it's not a problem. So I think she was doing some dressage work with it. Well, okay, that's fine. So I had some shoes with me, and I threw a forge in the truck, I threw an anvil in the truck and this stuff, my shoeing box, blah blah blah, and so I shaped up some shoes and burned them on, and the horse stood fantastic. It was really good, and I nailed them up, and then I finished. And when you finish, you undercut your clinches, squeeze them into the wall, a light rasping over the outside, and sandblock everything, and then a coat of polish on top.
Yeah.
They'd never seen anything like that ever.
Of course, yeah.
And you're, she's just watching me, and then the lady who owns the barn, who has most of the horses there, before I left, she goes, do you want to do more? Oh, next thing you know, that's my stop.
Right.
And I did those horses for 16 years.
Holy jeez. How long of a journey would it have been, like from your house with the ferry? And
Oh, it's over an hour.
Is it?
To
Yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
I mean, so what am I doing? I mean, I just take a day and I go up and do these horses on the island, and just, so the lady that owned the barn, I mean, she kept horses coming in and out, she'd train one up and then sell it. And so there was new horses all the time, then a couple of the old guys, and yeah, so I just let that go about a year ago. And I said, that's enough.
Wow.
That's enough. And maybe I shouldn't have. Maybe I don't know. Anyway, so that was my last client.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was it. That's done. I haven't touched a horse in a year. If I really, really want or feel that I need to shoe a horse, all I have to do is go down to Florida to Dave Farley's.
Right.
And he will kick my ass. Because I'm totally out of shape, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go
And
down,
he moves.
Yeah. And if
He
you go
moves.
down there, oh boy, oh geez, I am one sore puppy coming out of there.
Yeah.
That's
And that cures you for a while of that craving?
Get that smoke in your face, and then everything's done, and yeah, good. Okay, I'm going. I'll say thanks, Dave. I got my injection. I'll be fine. I'll be fine now for a couple months, maybe almost a year.
While you recuperate.
Yeah, that's all good.
So how did you and Dave come to be such good friends? Because he's always, from the moment I met him, talked about you, and always good.
He tried to pick up my wife at the convention in Lexington.
Really?
Yeah, I was competing.
Yep.
So I'm down on the floor, and my wife's sitting right there in the bleachers right above me, and next thing you know, he kind of slides in next to her, starts talking to her, and he says, well, what are you doing here, and who are you watching? And then she points at me and says, that's my husband. Oh. But then after that, I mean, we met, and we've been brothers.
Yeah.
Since. I mean, I don't know how much tighter we could be.
Right.
No, we do a lot of things together. A lot of bouncing ideas off each other. And then Dave has taken his shoeing business to a level that few people ever will attain.
Yeah, for sure.
That's absolutely the most amazing. So then Dave's son, Jay, Jay wants nothing to do with shaping shoes, burning them on, nailing, trimming. All he does is pull shoes and finish, and keep Dave on the straight and narrow.
Right.
Right. And I've been, there's a bunch of stories about that, isn't there?
Oh, I don't know. Are there?
Well, no, I mean, Dave will be shoeing away, and then his phone will ring, which it does on a constant basis.
For sure.
But he can shoe and put that phone underneath his chin, off his shoulder, and he can continue shoeing. I don't know how many conversations I've had with him where I can hear him nailing.
Ding, ding, ding.
He's nailing up a shoe, or he's shaping a shoe.
Yep.
And he's talking to me.
Yeah.
You know. Well, then if he happens to stop and go to talking on the phone, Jay jumps in his shit. You know, Jay starts pointing at the foot or something like that. You know. What is that? Put that down. Jay was a slave driver in the whole thing. They're like
the whole
that.
operation.
All the times I go down there, and so my job when I go down there is I'll occasionally nail something or whatever, but for the most part, my job is fitting shoes.
Okay.
Burning clips, fitting shoes. That's my job.
Mm-hmm.
So Jay gets when he knows he's got 3 of us there, 3 horses are in the aisleway, and Jay will have the shoes pulled off, and they'll be stacked in different piles on the back, and whether they can be reset, the old ones will be there. And if it's new, there's new shoes there with the old ones.
Right.
And then Dave starts in trimming. And as fast as Dave trims feet, you have shoes coming at him. So when he drops a foot, you right there picking it up and burning.
Okay.
You know, so no wasted motion. This is boom, 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 right? And as soon as you get done with a shoe and you say, yeah, I like that, you just hang it on the rack underneath the forge. And Jay will take it, and Jay quenches it. Then he goes and looks at it on the foot and says, and now he knows how much he has to grind on it.
Right, yep.
Goes back. The grinder side of that trailer belongs to Jay. You don't
don't go there.
Don't go there. That is Jay's office, and stay out of my office. Now, everything gets ground, it goes over, gets slapped on Dave's box, and you're ready to nail. And it's just a continuous motion all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Honest to God, without skimping. Because Dave can all he has to concentrate on is that trim.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to worry about the rest of it.
Right.
Because he knows that I'm coming in with a shoe fit behind him. And there'll be times when I'm fitting up and whatnot, and I'll go, I mean, is this what you want on this guy? I mean, do I need to pull back more? Or what? I don't know, whatever. I need more length? What do you want? More of this, more of that? And Dave will go, nope, that's what I was looking for, or whatever. So that's all I have to concentrate on, too, isn't it?
Right.
That's it. Done deal. And well, then Jay takes care of everything else. You know, off it goes. But you're doing a horse every 20 minutes.
Wild.
I mean, and no, there's no skimping here.
No.
I mean, if that horse requires pads or drill and tap, everything gets drill and tap, too. That includes all that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you mark it. I mark where the drill's going to go on that shoe, and that's all Jay. He takes care.
Sorted
boom,
out.
boom, boom. Uses the gun to tap it. Off, bam, bam. They're on the box. We got done one day, and we had gotten at the stop at 8:00, and finally Jay says, "Okay, that's the last one." So I looked at my phone, and it was noon. And I said, "How many we do?" And he goes, 12.
Holy jeez.
And you're like, okay, that's 4 hours, that's 3 an hour. What? We did that?
And it didn't even feel like it.
And not one of us had broke a sweat.
Really?
I mean, it's just so smooth and easy, and everybody's concentrating on, now you're making money when you can do that.
Yeah, and you're not breaking yourself down.
No. Every time I go down there'll be something that's popped up. When you're dealing with those high-priced horses down there, I mean, that's a whole other world anyway.
Yeah.
Right? But some little thing the horse didn't pass a jog for, or something or other, and we have to come in and
sort it.
Yeah, and that's what the whole afternoons are spent.
Okay.
Okay, you're meeting with vets. You're meeting for this horse or that horse, or a shoe off or whatever. It's like put out fires in the afternoon.
Right.
Make money in the morning.
Right.
I mean, we did one, or we had to meet the vet, and the vet actually went to the farm a little bit early and waited for us. the vet waiting for the farrier.
Really? That says a lot.
We roll in. They bring the horse out. Dave looks at it. Him and the vet have a conference a little bit. And all she says is, I think he just has a little too much toe, Dave. Okay. So Jay wasn't with us. So I popped the shoes. There's a pair of aluminums. And I went to the truck with him to just clean them up, make sure they're level. I don't know how he made his nippers take such a small amount off the toe, but it was this little tiny sliver.
Yeah.
He just took off right off the toe, and then he rasped it off. And I come in with the burn plate. Even though the horses wear aluminum, they get burned.
I use your burn plates.
There you go.
I use them down here, and I use it back home.
There you go.
Yep.
I brought it to him. He put it on there, and he smeared it all around nice. Took that back. Brought the shoes, we put them on there, and he, whatever it needed, maybe we had to pinch one up or something like that, or he nails them back on again. And then the vet tells the owner that let's not ride this horse for at least 12 hours. Let's just let her relax and settle and all that sort of
Into the drastic change.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Into this, whatever the hell he did. He probably could have done it with the rasp, but he brought the nipper out. So I'm going to show you how sharp my nipper is. But the owner couldn't stand it. And like 4 hours later, she's up and she's riding it. The very next day, that horse went in and won the Grand Prix. So then he writes me a text and says, your horse won the Grand Prix, won a brand new Audi and 12 Rolex watches and $365,000 or something like that. I said, well, send me a check.
Or one of the Rolexes.
Yeah, one of them. My horse now. It's my horse now. What the heck? Just that. I mean, just you see that all the time. I'm trying to figure stuff out. I don't know. Not everybody gets to bump into this synthetic footing.
Right.
So, but Dave is dealing with it on a day-to-day basis, right? And there is a trick.
Yes.
To synthetic.
And he taught me a lot of that.
Yeah, exactly. And there you go again. That's, trial and error. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he did stuff that didn't work, because you don't know. Mm-hmm. So how you gonna get through it unless you make the mistake and then you change something? Oh, that worked. Oh, that worked. Oh, that's pretty good stuff, though. I mean, just to And how many guys has Dave helped develop these multi-farrier practices?
Yeah, well, and that was one of we talked the first time I met him when we had dinner. We talked about multi-farrier practices and the footing.
There you go.
And I went home with all of these new ideas.
Overload.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yep.
Hanging out with Dave over the years and doing all the clinics that we've done together, and then getting into filming, doing videos. We're just brothers. That's all there is to it,
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the video about clipping. That was I think that was the first shoeing video I ever saw. And I was in the shop trying to draw my own clips on keg shoes, and I was getting frustrated. And I was like, there's got to be a video about this. Uh-huh. And there's Roy Bloom dressed up in his rain jacket, and he's like, come on outside, we're going to do this. Yeah. And so what was the concept there? Oh,
no, it's just that. I mean, that gentleman we spoke about earlier, that blacksmith from Indiana, he doesn't remember telling me that, but he told me that in one of the first times that I ever went to his shop. Just to explain, just that simple, isn't it? Mm-hmm. How does this stuff move? Mm-hmm. He was like that. I mean, he's a Kentucky transplant guy. I mean, he grew up in Kentucky and all that, and so I mean, to say when this steel gets hot, it acts just like cow shit. All right. So for a long time, that's in my brain pan.
Yep.
Everything you're doing, forging and whatnot, it's always there. Mm-hmm. Drawing a clip, that's all that is, right? It's just how do you direct your shit? Mm-hmm. When we started doing the videos, that was one of the first things that popped in my head is we gotta figure out how to do that. Linda Hill from FBD has a family up in Rhode Island, and I asked her why she's up there to look for that raincoat.
Really?
It's
And this was a specific...
It's a lobster fisherman's outfit.
Right, okay,
right?
yeah.
From Maine, with the sou'wester hat and all that silliness. So I added the big trapper rubber gloves and all that, and of course you have to have safety glasses, right?
Yeah.
You're dealing with hot shit here.
Yeah.
So and then so the morning that we were going to do that, I had talked with I had a neighbor that I was trimming a couple of her horses, but she also had cows.
Perfect.
So I said, is it all right we come over and get a couple buckets of shit? Oh, help yourself, for heaven's sakes. So we go over there, the three of us. I introduced them and all that sort of thing. And she goes, okay, but listen, you guys, the bull is out in the pasture. So just be careful, all right. So we go down to the gate and with our shovels and our buckets, and we step in, and there's cow shit everywhere around the gate. You didn't have to go very far, right? But Dave and Dan decided that the shit was better further out in the pasture. And they start drifting off looking for like the ideal shit.
Right, yeah.
So they're
in trouble.
They're way the heck out there. And I'm by the gate. I got a bucket full already. This is fine. And then we hear these pounding hooves. Like, blum, blum, blum. And so I yelled, it's a bull! It's a bull, get out of there! So they're trying to run with the shovels and buckets of shit. So I stepped out of the gate and locked it. So then they hit the gate, and they're like, there you go, let us out. And all of a sudden, this pony comes flying out of the bush, out of the trees, comes galloping up slides and everything, and it's like, hey, what you guys doing? Kind of thing. So that was the start of it. Then you go back to the house and you start filming and talking and all that sort of thing. And then you get in that suit. Well, it started raining. Thunder and lightning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So we got a big piece of cardboard so Dan could be under the cardboard.
Right,
and
okay.
Dave's holding the cardboard.
Hollywood tricks.
Yeah, I'm standing out in the middle of a thunderstorm.
With an anvil.
Yeah.
What could go wrong?
And a bucket of shit, and everything's wet. So when I smacked that shit the first time, it just cleared the anvil off. I hit it way too hard. I busted my stick.
Really?
And I did that. I said, that's where it's in there too. When this stuff's hot like that, you don't have to hit it that hard.
Yeah, right.
So it's somewhere in that whole thing is splattering shit all over the place. You have to go back and watch it again. But on my cheek is a little dot of shit.
I have heard this.
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
I didn't notice it at the time.
And do you think those boys would tell me, hey, wipe that shit off your face? No. They let me go through the whole rest of the video with that little piece of shit on my face.
Yep.
I was shit-faced all afternoon.
And video evidence of it.
Yeah. So I've even heard some people comment after a clinic we've done, and they'll go like, that guy says shit a lot.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're dealing with.
That's right, yeah. Call a spade a spade.
That's right. It's nothing but shit. Oh, my goodness, yes.
Well, thank goodness for this particular format. We don't have to worry about any kind of controlling body saying we're not PG enough. Or,
Yeah.
The first thing Craig Tranka asked me when I said about doing the interview was like, do I have to watch my language? Does this have to be PG-13? And I feel like he probably would have said no if I'd said, oh, yeah, you can't.
Yeah. Right. No, it's fine, Craig. You can go ahead and
Yeah, go ahead. We'll edit it.
use whatever you want. Oh, my goodness, yes. Since all that, some years, not too many years ago, but a few years ago, there was a big housing crunch in the whole country.
Yep.
The whole housing market just fell apart. Well, it hit northern Wisconsin extremely hard.
Okay.
It was 2 or 3 years before there was ever where someone had applied for a building permit for new construction in all of Bayfield County, Wisconsin.
Wow.
It was years after that. Nothing happened. Well, we were going great guns before that because all these folks would come up, buy property, build a big fancy summer home. Some of them are really, really, unbelievable. like $3 million log cabins, and you're like, whew. And they want you to build railing for it, or glass fireplace doors, or something like that. And we were busy all the time with that. And as soon as that crunch happened, all of that disappeared.
Wow.
It's just gone. Like one day, yep. Next day, no.
Okay.
Just that fast. I mean, just poof. All of a sudden, you have no work.
And a crew now.
And now I got 3 guys working.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in trouble. All right, so now I gotta lay guys off, right? So I laid everybody off and just was building tools. And we struggled. I think I struggled along with one guy, but it was just the tools, nothing more. And then he quit. He decided he wanted to do something else. And then I picked up another young man. And he was probably the best employee I ever had in my life.
Oh, really?
Spent 5 years in the Marine Corps. As far as he was concerned, everything was military.
Right.
You know? Right. Yes, sir.
Lots of discipline.
Yes, sir. I never one time would he go, Roy, how about, can I have a day off or something like that? No, sir. Do you mind if I And every night he left, every night when we were done for the day, shake my hand and say, thank you. Really? And was good at everything. No matter what we worked on, he could pick it right up, go. But anyway, then he had to leave. And he was sick. I mean, he was apologizing because he had to leave fast. His wife applied for a job down in the southern part of the state, and they gave her the job and gave her 1 week to be there.
Oh, wow.
So then he's trying to move her, and they had a little baby. And so, I mean, he's gone.
Gone.
Right? Well, he left in April, which is the busiest time for shoes, for tools.
Right.
There's no way I can break somebody new in. That's not going to happen. So I just gritted my teeth and
Hunkered down.
well, that's so we're going to have to spend a few days in the shop, right? So we just went at it, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and just had at her, man. Got her, and I did it. I thought, well, hell, all right, I'll just leave it like that. Why not? I'll just leave it alone. So sure enough, I mean, that's the way it's been since then. That's been about almost 5 years. I'm alone in the shop.
Okay.
Every tool that you see on the market, I went through my hands.
Wow.
It's only me.
Yeah.
Nobody else makes stuff, just Roy. So if there's a quality control issue.
You know the guy?
I know the guy.
You know the one who stamped it. You don't have to check that label.
I know the guy. Yeah. Safety meetings are real short.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're an idiot.
How are the pep talks?
Yeah. You're an idiot. Don't do that again. And even through all that, there's no burnout. I mean, you just, I'm 67 years old now. And I have absolutely no intention whatsoever of stopping.
Yeah.
So when I fall down in the shop, that'll be the end.
Right.
That's enough.
Yeah.
Right there. But other than that, no. There's still a gazillion ideas flying around in my brain pan.
Right. That need to get out there.
Yeah. And I don't know, we made a few things, brought it down here,
That beautiful wine holder I saw.
And there's all those little carved legs. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
them. Yeah, those with the little shoes. And
Yep.
I've made a few of those over the years, but so that takes you back a little bit. If you've seen any of Tom Willoughby's work, the wood carving that he does,
Yeah.
that all started when him and I were working together. The only hoof knife we could buy was a Frost.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you saying that.
So the blade works perfect. I mean, it's no problem with the blade, but the handles, they have all these sharp lines on them. They're really big and coarse, and
Okay.
so we would buy a box of knives, 10 knives, and Tom would take 5, I'd take 5, and we'd go home and sit in the evening and we'd whittle those handles. And we'd just sit and whittle whatever. I wish I saved them all. And we had little horse heads and chicken heads and stuff on them, and everything kind of fit your hand and all this and that. And, well, he showed up one day, he'd glued wood on the side of it, and then he carved a horse's foot and leg
Okay.
out of the thing. And so when he brought it, I said, oh, there we go. Now that's cool. Let's make a shoe for it. well, how are you going to do that? And I thought, I think we can make one out of a penny. He said, no, we can't. I said, well, we'll try. So I took a penny and put it in the propane and got it red, and then I tapped it, and I drew it out, and then turned it.
No way.
When it was straight, I took my fuller and popped the fuller in both sides, and then turned it. So I had fullering on it, and then we fit it to that foot on there, right? And then we glued it on there, right? So then Tom had that fancy little thing in his apron for a while, and then every one we made after that was all little horses'
Had
feet.
to have a...
Yeah, you have to have horses' feet.
Yeah.
So then I started making those little bitty shoes, and said, well, you can't be just plain shoes all the time. Let's make a bar shoe. Let's make it this. Let's make it that. But they're all little tiny things,
Yeah. Now, are pennies what you typically use for them, or
No,
what's
we switched over to everything. We made them out of brass brazing rod.
Okay.
And little stainless TIG wire.
Yeah.
Started getting in a little bit of aluminum. I even made little swedge block so that I could run it through there, so I could make a half round, half swedge standardbred and some full swedge toe grab thoroughbred place.
Yep.
Again, there it goes.
Mm-hmm. Things got crazy.
Yeah. We get one idea, and then it's like, oh, but wait, how about this? What if you did? I know already. I know.
I sense a theme here.
So then I started taking and just carving legs and feet, and I was goofing around, and I would make them into hoof picks. I'd straighten out a lag screw, right? Mm-hmm. Flatten the end and put the loop in there and screw that in the end of it with a copper cap for copper pipe for water pipe.
Mm-hmm.
I'd drill a hole in that and polish it all up and slide that on, glue it, and then I was stamping a number in it, and I'd bring them to the convention. And I sold a couple, and they had different shoes on all of them.
Right.
Little sliding plates and all this stuff. So I thought, oh my goodness, maybe I should make more of these shoes and put them in a shoe board, a shoe display. So sitting up at the house is a little case that I made. It's all oak veneer and whatnot, and with 40 of those little tiny shoes in there.
Holy jeez.
Yeah. But one thing leads to another, right? Yeah. And then same thing with Tom. And he started getting into the hardest thing to draw or sculpt is a human hand.
Yep.
That's the hardest thing. They say that all the time, right?
Yep.
Well, Tom, he just became fascinated with his hand. So he'd just sit at night with a block of wood, and he'd study his hand, and then he'd whittle. Study his hand and whittle. To the point of when you see one of his carvings, it's kind of scary at first. Because when you just see it across on the table over there, you think, some bitch, somebody's hand. Yeah. What'd he do?
Yeah.
Who's missing an arm? I mean, you really got to study the thing to say, oh, it's whittled out of wood. Oh, my goodness. I mean, the detail on the finger, around the fingernails, and you look at your hand and try to figure out how many different lines there are in that hand that you need to put in with a pocket knife. That's sick. No, Tom's sick, but that's beside the point. Then carving a horse's leg. Now it got sophisticated. No
kidding.
You look at his carvings. That's sophisticated carving work right there. Mm-hmm. That's unbelievable stuff. But it all came from that silliness of carving hoof knife handles years ago. Just one more idea.
Right. They just blossom.
Yeah. Make sure your bed faces to the east. That's all.
If there's one main takeaway from our conversation.
That's it. Turn your bed around.
Yeah,
you don't want that. You don't want them ideas hitting you in the back of the head.
No,
because you won't get.
I got pretty thick hair.
Yeah, you won't get one idea ever. You wonder what you go through life without one idea.
No.
Damn, it's all because my bed didn't face the right way.
Well, I'll make sure when I get home that I figure out what orientation I'm at, because I am going to have to think about it. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I can't move my bed, maybe I'll just sleep in a different direction.
Get a new house.
Yeah.
How come you're sleeping in the garage all the time?
Roy. A wise man once told me.
Yeah, honey, I'm moving my bed to the garage. It's the only building that faces to the east.
But the ideas.
Oh, my gosh. So your whole life, it's all that stuff. It's just constant. How can you get burned out? How can you quit?
Yeah.
I read something about, I don't know if you ever heard it, Samuel Yellen.
No.
He's a blacksmith in New York, very famous, turn of the century blacksmith. And most of the stuff that's in New York on the big cathedrals and things like that, the gates and all that stuff was made by Samuel Yellen. And I read in his book on him that he kept a pad of paper on the nightstand next to his bed because at night he would wake up and
It would hit.
idea.
Yeah.
And he would make sketches of something, whatever, or maybe multiple pages because when you start, it just keeps going, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Then you finally go back to sleep or something, but then the next day he has page after page of a new gate or new technique or new design or whatever. And that's kind of it. I mean, I don't have a pad of paper next to my bed, but all day long, you're always thinking about, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but if you do that. And then you go back to everything that I learned from that blacksmith and how things move.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're analyzing the piece. You're analyzing your design as to what's required here. I'm going to need some tools in order to produce a particular look, this, that, or to move something away, this, that, whatever. Blacksmiths today will sometimes take and make tools out of wood, different rounds or squares or whatever, and they'll push into clay. Yeah, they'll push it into a block of clay or something and trying to see, because the clay moves exactly the same.
Right, as steel, as hot steel.
Right. And the same as the lead that we've been using for the demos. I use that a lot.
Yeah, I remember at clinic 10 years ago, and that's what you were using.
But to just work out a move, work out a pattern or whatever, or something's not right, test a tool. Do I have the tool right? Mm-hmm. I can run it through the lead, and I don't need to adjust that, or no, that's not right. We need to do this or tweak that, or so it's constant, a constant thing going on all the time. It's got you in a buzz.
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
Now, when you get these ideas, do you write them down, or is it just something you just keep bouncing around in your head until?
No, I sit with a pad of paper and I'll make drawings and stuff.
Yep.
And when I was down in Indiana, I'd get up early and I'd go to the restaurant and have breakfast. But I took my pad with me, and I'd sit there drinking coffee, eating breakfast, and drawing different designs of different things and different tooling and things I wanted to make, right? And so I have a big notebook full of some stuff that I haven't had a chance to do yet.
Right.
So you got that,
Plus more coming. You've got a backlog.
Yeah. I bought a turtle.
I saw that.
Here.
Yeah.
And it's in pattern welded steel, right? Well, 20 years ago, Shane Carter said, saw one of my turtles, and he says, "You need to make this out of pattern welded." Well, it took 20 years, but by God, I finally got one. Feel pretty good now.
Yeah, you can knock that one off the list.
Thank God it snowed a lot up at the house. This winter's been good for catching up on
creativity, and catching up on projects.
Yeah, exactly. Can't get out.
No.
Snowed in. Okay, let's make a turtle.
Well, and you always seem to have something on the go. Like have you ever been bored?
No.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty rare. We'll make our own fun then.
Just not in you. Yeah, that's probably when the trouble happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's when you get in deep doo-doo.
Yeah. This has been really great. Do you want to do the short answer questions?
Yeah, whatever you got.
All right. This portion of the podcast is called the Stratum Tectorium. These are the short answer, surface stuff questions, but it's okay if the guest wants to go deeper. Enjoy. So the first one I'd asked you before we started, I asked favorite book, and you said you had hundreds.
Anything from Zane Grey or Louis L'Amour.
Oh, Lewis,
on your westerns and whatnot. Zane Grey's older stuff, but okay. I have the full set of both.
Oh, okay.
Anything Tom Clancy.
Yep.
Or Clive Cussler.
I don't know him, but
Yeah, any of that stuff. I reading that all the time. A lot of history stuff.
yeah.
You know, some people that have dug in and written these books about. I just read one about Custer.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I like that stuff too. You know, it's all good across the board.
All over
I read every night.
Do you? Okay.
You know, that's my fall asleep medicine.
Right.
Just climb into bed and open a book.
Right.
And I read a chapter or two, or so. Usually I fall asleep with the book on my chest. It's all perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've tried that. I get one paragraph and then I don't retain it. Yeah.
And then you're gone.
Do you have a favorite brand of work boots?
No.
Nope.
No, we don't even wear boots anymore. Never did. How about that?
No steel-toed?
Absolutely not.
And why?
I saw guys lose toes.
Because of the steel toes? Crushing them?
If that horse hits the back edge of that steel plate or that steel cap that's in there,
Yeah.
I've seen it bend down and cut their toes off.
Ugh.
And I thought, no. So if he stands on your foot, big deal. So I wear these little slip-on loafer things.
Yeah, yeah. Comfortable as heck.
And shoeing.
More and more people
You
have
need
said
to learn
that.
to dance.
Yeah.
You need to learn to dance.
I'm not a fast mover, maybe.
You need to learn to dance.
Do you have a favorite make of rasp?
No.
Tried them all.
Yeah, whatever. They all work.
Did you have a dream rig?
Had a couple of them. Pretty good friends with Brent Chidsey.
Okay.
Yeah. Been friends with Brent since he started in New York.
Okay.
So I've had Brent build three rigs for me. I had a little one, a little box on a little Toyota Tacoma for a long, long time.
Okay.
Yeah, both Dave and I shot out of that. Dave would fly up to Minnesota. He had a client based out of Minneapolis. And so I would go pick Dave up at the airport, and him and I would go out and shoe all those horses all the time. So anyway, that rig. And then we decided to get into like a promo rig where, so I bought a 57 Chevy pickup truck
Okay.
and had Brent build a body for that.
Oh, cool. I think I've seen pictures of that, maybe.
Yeah, that yellow
Yep.
57.
Yep.
And we had that, we've had that at convention in the marketplace and stuff
Okay.
like that. And that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then that went away, and I had him build me a trailer.
Okay.
Yeah. So then when I quit shoeing, I thought, well, there's no sense in keeping the trailer around. So I sold that this last summer here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You've had multiple dream rigs.
Yeah.
Now, this question might be redundant. Your favorite rounding hammer?
Nah, whatever. No, it's not. You don't have one. There's, I don't know how many hammers hanging on the wall in the shop. 50?
Yeah, it's an addiction, isn't it?
Could be 50 hammers hanging in there. A lot of them I've made. A lot of specific hammers for specific, that kind of thing. I got a little 2-pound, one of the first hammers that I made, and I still use that guy a lot. So maybe that's my favorite guy.
Okay.
Maybe.
Your go-to. Do you have a favorite type of bar stock to work with?
No, that don't. No,
Doesn't matter.
no, I don't. It don't matter at all.
Favorite pastime after work?
Fishing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next thing on your bucket list?
I don't believe I have one.
Okay.
I don't have a bucket list.
Sounds like you just keep going with the flow anyway.
Yeah, just
Life is one big bucket list.
yeah, exactly. That's good. That's a good one there.
Do you have a favorite brand of keg shoe?
Well, the last 16 years, the only shoes I was using was a Kier Cart half round.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Yep.
everything had that. There's a funny story too. But when I had that trailer built, then Brent says, "Well, you want to put some shoe racks in there? That's why I don't need very many. I said I only have 3 horses and shoes on the front, and 2 of them wear the same size. So it's only going to be 2 shoes.
Yeah.
So I only need 2 pegs. He says, well, they come with 4 on them. You want me to cut the other ones off? And I said, no, we'll just put them in there. I'll find something to hang on it. And so we put 1 shoe rack in the trailer. There's 6 shoes hanging on.
Yeah.
Just in case I had to replace something.
Right. Well, it's a good thing you didn't cut the other ones off. I'm sure you found something.
Oh, yeah. Well, you hung something on there. I can't remember what it was. Probably my apron.
Do you prefer leather or synthetic pads?
Leather.
Okay. Favorite type of horse to work on?
Small ones.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can't handle those warm blood number
Okay.
3 boogers.
Those are my preferred.
I'm not big enough.
No.
I feel like no.
Okay. Ideal number of horses to shoe all around in one day?
About 5.
Okay.
About 5. That's a good day.
Yeah. Favorite anvil?
Well, for years I had my only anvil in the shop was a Swedish.
The Coltspaw?
Yeah.
Okay.
At 165-pound Coltspaw. In fact, it's still sitting there next to the coal fire. That's what I learned on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anything that duplicates that.
Right.
Right. So the new Anvil brand stuff, the Legends,
Yep.
that's spot on.
Fair. Yeah, okay.
And I've had some Emersons in that copy that he made, more or less.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just anything that has a round horn. When I was shoeing, because everything was cold, so my anvil was a Bruce Daniels.
With turning cams and...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was like just one kick-ass stall jack.
Right.
I tell everybody at the clinics that you can't just pull up and pull out a stall jack and go shoe a horse. Maybe you can get away with that at the track. No. The client wants to hear you grunt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they want to see you pick up that anvil and put it on, the stand. They want to hear you every morning.
That's when you've earned your...
Yeah. They're willing to pay you now.
Yeah.
They'll write you a check. But if you come out and just don't even break a sweat and have a stall jack, no.
No bueno.
I ain't paying you nothing.
Do you have a favorite inspirational quote?
Maybe that quote, what he told me, Now, when this stuff gets hot, it acts just like a cow shit.
Yep, that's a good one.
That's pretty inspirational.
Yeah. And applicable every day.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you use social media?
A little.
A little. Yeah. Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on there a little bit.
Okay. What do you use as your planner? Or do you have one?
No.
No?
No.
Okay.
No, just wing it.
Okay. Favorite method of soothing aches and pains?
You know what? I'm pretty fortunate. I don't have any.
Really?
I don't have any aches and pains. I don't have any problem with arthritis or... 67 years old, you think you'd limp a little.
Yeah.
Nothing. I have nothing.
Good for you.
It's kind of weird. You hear of everybody, popping Aleve and shit and ibuprofen. And I don't have it to do.
I keep trying to check past your collar to see the Superman symbol on your chest. Do you have a favorite brand of jeans?
Levi's.
It's pretty standard. It's either Wranglers or Levi's. Seems to be the
yeah, exactly.
Favorite drink?
Well, it used to be Kessler's.
Okay.
Kessler's and ginger. Oh, what's it been now? 2 years ago, we started having some heart trouble.
Okay.
Not much. I mean, it was what they call it, AFib, where your heart goes into irregular beat.
Okay. Yeah.
So at that time, I thought that it could have been
related to that.
Yeah, the whiskey and your alcohol is always some. So I quit.
Okay.
So I haven't really drank since then.
Okay.
So, but there you go.
That was. Yeah. Okay.
Now it's sweet tea.
I can't get sweet tea back home that tastes as good as it does as soon as you cross the border.
Yeah, that's true.
Into the U.S. Favorite genre of music?
Old stuff.
Yeah.
60s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you work out?
No.
Do you meditate?
No.
What would you have been if not a farrier or toolmaker?
Who knows?
You would have been great at it.
Who knows? It happened too early. I did try going to college. I had this notion that I could become a biology teacher.
Okay.
Yeah. Coming out of high school, I was really into biology, birds and everything like that. So
Wow.
I thought, then you went to college and you ran into this thing called organic chemistry. Have no idea what that is. To this day, I still don't know what that is. I've never met anything like that, where it didn't matter how much time or reading or even tutoring from professors and all that, and then walk in the classroom and the guy's talking Japanese or something.
Right.
Not a clue. I have no clue what you're talking about. And that's not what I read in the book. I mean, it was a wall. It actually was. I mean, just wham. But I needed it so bad. I mean, that's one of your
Core
classes, right?
Yeah.
Oop, well, that went out the window. I think I'll be a horseshoer.
Well, I think you chose the right path. I don't think anybody would argue with that.
There you go.
Well, thank you very much, Roy. I really appreciate that you let me do this.
Oh, no problem. Thank you.
We all appreciate it.
Yeah, this was fun.
Before I sign off, I'd like to say a few words about the coronavirus, since it's taking up so much of our bandwidth these days, and since there's so much misinformation being put out into the world about it. I was supposed to attend a clinic put on by a good friend of mine, Mike Mihak, in Ottawa, Ontario on Friday this week, and I wasn't able to attend as it had been canceled by the organizers. As many things, probably by this point, all things have been canceled that would incur a large group of people coming together. The reason for this is not paranoia. I've listened to a few podcasts just to inform myself because I wasn't really sure. There has been a lot of misinformation and rumor about what's going on, and people have had opinions on why this is and that people are just acting paranoid. There is a thing called the flattening of the curve, and experts are just worried that if too many people get the virus all at once, it will put too much of a stress on our healthcare system. Hospitals run at full capacity pretty much most of the time anyways, and they are not ready to have a huge influx of people. Sometimes even just a bad year of the flu can almost put the system offline. So by stopping groups hanging around together, it's not that they're going to stop people from getting the virus. It will happen to some, but it just stops a massive transmission of it very quickly so that they don't have a whole pile of cases that all have to arrive all at once. And then, just like in Italy, the doctors don't have to do basically triage and decide who lives or dies and who gets treatment based on a whole bunch of criteria. It's a decision that nobody wants to make, but it's kind of like doctors on a war field would have to do. So all of this will add up to probably some weeks or months without clinics and gatherings, but I'm sure in the end it will be for the greater good. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on this topic is that, judging by what I heard some of the experts say in the interviews that I heard, not all of us are going to make it out of this unscathed. There will be some amongst us who catch this, and hopefully it won't be a bad bout of it, but it will mean that they will be isolated, under quarantine, and unable to take care of the horses on their books. Now, we are a pretty good group of folks, and I have known many instances where farriers have stepped up and helped each other out when another farrier was sick or injured and unable to do their horses. And I'm looking forward to hearing stories of just such instances as this all develops. So please feel free to share. I would love to hear them, and I'll even share some of them on the podcast as they come in. So please take care of yourselves and each other out there. Stay healthy, and we'll be back in a couple weeks or so. Take care.